So, what we mean by movies getting taken away from us is we are dangerously close. Like, the light is green now at the stoplight for all things movies and TV to basically freeze until things get better. So, I don't know the full situation with this, but the IATSE is more or less like the governing body. It's kind of like the union for below the line film and entertainment workers. And so what do we mean by below the line is like camera ops, grips, catering, just basically like any of the, I don't want to say non-high profile, but the more of the bit players, not like your writers or your directors or your actors. This refers more to the layman's jobs, wardrobing, costuming, the everyday kind of jobs. They've gotten the green light to go on strike in a vote that was like 98% of people are going. 98%, I think, of the union body.
Yeah. It's I have an article up in front of me because I'm actually trying to
what'd you got?
And, the vote passed at 98.7% support. So that's quite a large like margin. They're basically negotiating for and have been negotiating since May for a new contract, seeking long addressed concerns, including but not limited to the long hours on set, streaming wage sales and residuals, and stability of pension and health funds. So basically saying to my understanding, if you work on a movie, your contract will basically say, give or take, that you get a certain cut of the sales from theaters and DVDs and royalties and stuff like that because you worked on that film. Well, I'm assuming based on this that people were not getting any of that from streaming. So, which is again, I think I'll bring it up after we kind of talk about this issue specifically. But that is basically the reason why Scarlett Johansson ended up winning, was because of these kinds of issues. But yeah, so basically saying, they need to be taken care of better. From what I've been reading, they specifically TV productions have been getting hit harder with longer hours.
That's more of what I was getting at. From everything I've heard, it really isn't streaming related. It's more of, it's kind of been like the worst kept secret that film productions are like one of the worst working conditions. And unfortunately, for a very long time, it's kind of just been like played as the joke of just like, well, you're going to have to work 16-hour days and you get to work for 6 months straight, but you're working on a movie set. So isn't that special? And you're just like, cool that you're making a movie, but those working conditions sound awful. That's why there's certain directors that make specific rules of just like, no, we're doing this. Like, I remember James Gunn is very active on Twitter, which has been both good and bad for him career-wise, but he's very open and honest with a lot of people's questions, and he has spoken before of like, my goal every single day is to work a 12-hour shift, and that is it. I don't want to work overtime. I don't want to tax my crew. I want to make sure we get the shots right the first time. That way we don't have to keep doing stuff and also drag things out much longer than I have to. Because by and large, like when you say your employees weekend, it's not always Saturdays and Sundays. Very rarely. Josh and I both know weekends don't mean Saturdays and Sundays when you're working in entertainment or food, whatever else. Your weekends are whatever your days off. So a lot of these employees weren't getting weekends, whether or not those are like a Monday and Tuesday or whatever else. They weren't getting the time off that they were needing to, causing extra stress, working ridiculously long hours, not getting properly compensated, which unfortunately is not a new issue. So for all these people that might not know the whole situation, they're just like, Hollywood's on strike, that's dumb. It's like, this has nothing to do with like the Hollywood egos of like actors or directors. This is people that you will never see or never hear of behind the camera getting screwed over, and have been screwed over for about 100 years now. Like, if I remember correctly, there was an article saying this is like the first strike in like 120 years. Like, the system has not, the system really has not changed, and culture, we have changed. Like, The pandemic has really opened, I think, a lot of businesses' eyes of, oh, we are not properly compensating our people, and they're choosing to take their talents to South Beach or somewhere else, so to speak. And film is going to learn this the hard way. We don't want it to, because it'll basically put a production halt on any movie or TV that's in business right now, and could even theoretically affect the theme parks. I saw some reports that people are going, this might affect Disney World. It will not. Disney has already come out and said that it won't. Universal, they are non-union. They are employees of Universal itself, which I've always thought was a much better and smarter choice. But if anything, people should be on the side of the strike, because these people are getting worked to death for our entertainment. Like, cool, yeah, they're making TV and making movies that we love. They shouldn't have to be burnt out to all heck and basically just be run ragged to make that entertainment work for us. Like, you at home probably work an 8 to 10 hour job a day. These people, it's normal for them to work 14 to 16. I've heard stories of some people working 20-hour days. I'm going, in what world is that healthy? Like,
Yeah. With like a 6 hour turnaround. Like they're working 12, 15-hour days and then having to be back at work at like 6 hours. And so like one of the things in the union that the union is it's trying to get the contracts to say is like a 10-hour turnaround between shifts for every one, as well as like a 54-hour turnaround on weekends. So it's like, and to the point they're actually having to say, hey, there needs to be stiffer penalties for productions that don't provide or stop for a lunch. Are you kidding me? Like, and like I think a part of this too is we just assume like, oh, that's show business. Well, that's
doesn't
not
mean
fair
it's
at
right.
all. Yeah, like, oh, they're making millions of dollars, but that doesn't make it right. And
That's
most
the thing.
of the time,
That's the problem.
yeah,
is
the people
are just
that
like,
we're talking about, yeah, are
people
not
are just like, they're making
that.
millions. The people that this is affecting, they are not. You're thinking of above the line people. There's an above the line, which are jobs like directors, writers, producers, and actors. And then there's below the line, which is lighting, grips, AV techs. Those people are much more pay level, like everyday people. They might be slightly higher just to compensate the Hollywood economics, just because California is a much more expensive place to live than Florida or Tennessee, etc. But by and large, they're not getting paid more than you and I, really. And they're getting screwed over hard, and it's only right that they get compensated. One, any form of specialized skill, I think, should be paid adequately for that. If you have a specialized skill, whether that's like automotive training or plumbing or electrical work, that's a specialized skill that requires higher pay. Film is no different. Grips, there's training for that. Audio techs, that there's training for that. And these people deserve to be financially compensated, and also, heaven forbid, they be allowed to have a lunch and a weekend. Like, I get that sometimes you are going to be like cruise ships. They will have like 6 months on, basically, of just straight work. But then you've got like 3 to 4 months off, just completely off before you get back on. And I understand that film can be like that if you need a location for a little bit, but you need to, in that case, maybe have an A crew and a B crew and alternate. Like, I had a job very briefly working at a news station, and when it was hurricane weather, everyone was brought into the office, and you would kind of flip-flop, 12 hours on, 12 hours off, basically. That way, no one left the building, but you still got your designated time, and you weren't going to, like, get stuck in traffic or get stuck somewhere with the hurricane. Maybe something like that, so people will still have their time off. Like, how nuts is it that we have to get this far to get people basically their normal treatment on a film set, and we've allowed the whole, well, it's a movie, that makes it okay logic for too long. I'm like, no, it's just a regular job for these people.
Yeah, and that's what's tough. And like, I'm seeing things like the studio is trying to, it's kind of pulling like almost Disney-like kind of stuff where it's like, well, you know, we have suggested this list of things, and they're just not working with us on those things. Yeah, well, those things are like the French workday, which means they just take out lunch so that they can work straight through, and that quote unquote gives them shorter work days. As someone who has worked for a company that basically does friendship working hours, that does not mean that I've actually worked the longest days I've had were at that company, because you just work and you just go until you're done. And it just doesn't, it's not conducive to a healthy human being. And like, everyone deserves to be a healthy human being. Like, you can't yeah, anyway.
What a novel concept.
I know, right?